Imagine an ordinary afternoon turning into a high-stakes battle of wits, where an unsuspecting elderly woman uses her grit and smarts to turn the tables on ruthless scammers. Stay with me as we dive into the complete, gripping story of Evelyn Carter, an everyday senior who refused to be a victim, and instead sparked a chain of events that shook a criminal empire to its core. Evelyn Carter's peaceful afternoon was shattered by the gentle chime of her doorbell. Nestled in her modest, well-loved home, Evelyn glanced through the peephole and saw two impeccably dressed individuals standing on her porch. Their posture and crisp attire exuded an air of authority. Curiosity piqued, Evelyn opened the door just a crack. Before her stood a man and a woman, both appearing to be in their mid-30s, smiling warmly as they introduced themselves. "Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Agent Franklin, and this is my colleague, Agent Monroe," the man announced in a smooth, reassuring tone. "We're here regarding a special tax rebate program designed exclusively for seniors. May we come in to explain it further?" Though a small voice of caution whispered in Evelyn's mind, their professional demeanor and the badges they flashed, glinting under the sunlight, quieted her suspicions. She stepped aside and invited them into her living room. They settled into her cozy space, and before long, Agent Monroe began outlining the details of the program. "Ms. Carter, the government recognizes the financial challenges that many seniors face," Agent Monroe explained in a gentle yet businesslike manner. "In response, we have initiated a rebate program to show our appreciation for your lifetime of contributions to society." Evelyn's heart fluttered with a mix of excitement and hesitation. "That sounds almost too good to be true," she remarked, her voice laced with skepticism. Agent Franklin nodded sympathetically. "We hear that all the time, Ms. Carter, but rest assured, this is a completely legitimate program." Reaching into his briefcase, he pulled out a folder brimming with documents that appeared official, complete with testimonials and detailed breakdowns of the rebate structure. Evelyn leaned forward, adjusting her glasses as she carefully examined the papers. The letterhead looked authentic, and the language echoed the formal style of previous government communications she had encountered. Page after page revealed smiling faces of other seniors, enthusiastic quotes, and comprehensive explanations of how the rebate worked. Agent Monroe then explained, "To process your rebate, we need some basic information from you. It's standard procedure to verify your eligibility. We require your full name, date of birth, social security number, and your bank account details for direct deposit, so the money goes straight to you." A flicker of unease crossed Evelyn's mind at the thought of divulging personal details, yet the reassuring tone of the agents overpowered her doubts. With a deep breath, she accepted the form, saying, "If this is truly for my benefit, then I suppose it's necessary." As she filled in the required information, the agents engaged in light conversation, further putting her at ease. When she finished, Agent Franklin carefully placed the completed form into his briefcase. "Thank you, Ms. Carter. You should see your rebate in your account within the next 2 weeks," he assured her before rising to leave. Evelyn walked them to the door, a cocktail of anticipation and satisfaction swirling within her. As she watched their car drive away, a small seed of doubt began to sprout in her mind. Had I made the right decision, she wondered. Shaking off the disquiet, she closed the door and returned to her quiet living room. But as the final sip of her cold tea passed her lips, a shiver of apprehension ran down her spine. Something about that visit felt off. Unable to shake the feeling, Evelyn retrieved the paperwork the agents had left behind. Spreading the documents across her old wooden kitchen table, she scrutinized every detail. The afternoon sunlight cast long, stretching shadows over the official-looking letterhead. As she pored over the fine print, Evelyn noticed subtle inconsistencies. The address on the letterhead differed slightly from what she recalled seeing on their badges, the fonts used in the testimonials were inconsistent with the rest of the document, and, tucked away in a corner of the rebate form, a tiny misspelling betrayed the authenticity of the materials, a mistake no legitimate government agency would ever allow. Her heart pounding, Evelyn moved to the old desktop computer in the corner of her living room. After fumbling briefly with the keyboard, she logged into her bank's website. As the page loaded, Evelyn's eyes widened in disbelief. Where she expected to see thousands of dollars, her account balance displayed only a few hundred. The familiar, comforting surroundings of her home suddenly felt alien and dangerous. The realization dawned on her: these so-called government agents were nothing more than professional scammers, and she had just handed them her most sensitive information. Anger and frustration welled up within Evelyn, and for a moment, tears threatened to spill over. But she blinked them away with fierce determination. Standing up, her back straightened and her jaw set in resolve, Evelyn Carter was not a victim to be trifled with. She was a respected pillar of her community, and she would not allow these smooth-talking criminals to get the better of her. Instead of calling the police immediately, fearing they might dismiss her concerns, Evelyn reached for her phone and dialed a familiar number. "Hello, Jordan. It's Grandma Evelyn. I need your help, something's happened, and I think we're going to need your computer skills." Her voice, steady despite the turmoil inside her, carried the weight of her determination. As she explained the situation to her grandson, Jordan Carter's face, visible on the video call, transformed from casual concern to steely determination. Jordan, an adept tech expert with an instinct for cybersecurity, wasted no time. "All right, Grandma, tell me everything that happened. Don't leave out any details," he urged, his eyes locked on her screen. Evelyn recounted every moment, the persuasive smiles, the folder of documents, the uneasy feeling that followed. With each new detail, Jordan's expression grew graver. "Grandma, these aren't your average scammers. The level of sophistication in their approach, the quality of their fake documents, it's a professional operation." Despite the rising panic in her chest, Evelyn pressed on. "So, what do we do? Should I call the police?" Her voice wavered as she sought guidance. Jordan hesitated before replying, "We could, but there are risks. These criminals are pros. If they detect any alarm, they might have contingency plans. I think we should do some digging of our own first, using my cybersecurity skills to trace their digital footprint and build a strong case before involving law enforcement." A spark of hope ignited within Evelyn. "Is that even legal?" she asked, her worry apparent. Jordan smiled reassuringly. "Don't worry, Grandma. We're not doing anything illegal. Think of it as gathering evidence like a private investigator would. We're just following the digital breadcrumbs they left behind." Though the plan carried inherent risks, Evelyn knew that if she didn't fight back, more seniors would fall prey to these predators. Together, Evelyn and Jordan transformed her modest computer setup into a high-tech command center. As Jordan set up monitoring software and configured tools to trace IP addresses and digital patterns, Evelyn watched with a mixture of awe and concern. In that moment, she realized that she and her tech-savvy grandson were an unlikely yet formidable team, a seasoned elder with life experience and an agile mind working in tandem with modern technology. They were ready to take on the criminals who had dared to invade her trust. Hours passed as Jordan explained every detail in layman's terms. "Every time someone goes online, they leave behind a digital footprint," he said, pointing to a series of complex diagrams on his screen. "We're tracking the trail these scammers have left across multiple victims' accounts." Evelyn listened intently, absorbing the information like a student determined to master a new lesson. The night deepened, and as the minutes ticked by on the kitchen clock, Evelyn's initial shock gradually transformed into a burning determination to reclaim her stolen dignity. Yet as the night wore on, a creeping doubt began to cloud Evelyn's hope. "This is taking longer than I expected," Jordan muttered, rubbing his eyes in frustration. "These guys are meticulous, they've covered their tracks exceptionally well." Evelyn's heart sank at the thought that they might not be able to find the culprits in time. "Does that mean we can't catch them?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jordan shook his head firmly. "No, Grandma. Every criminal makes a mistake eventually, we just have to dig deeper. Despite the mounting challenges, Evelyn's resolve only strengthened. The prospect of countless other seniors suffering the same fate steeled her nerves. "We can't let them get away with this," she insisted, her voice steady and resolute. "I refuse to let these crooks continue to steal not only my money but also the security and trust one once felt in my own home." With renewed purpose, Jordan sprang into action, outlining his plan with technical precision and simplified explanations to ensure Evelyn understood every step. "We're going to monitor every communication that comes through your phone and computer, tracking any further contact from these scammers. I'll set up a controlled environment so that you can engage with them without exposing yourself to additional risks," he explained. Evelyn nodded, absorbing every word, her determination intensifying. Together, they were about to embark on a dangerous journey, a journey that would pit an unyielding spirit against a sophisticated criminal network. As the first hints of dawn crept through the window, Jordan's excitement surged. "Grandma, I think I've found something," he announced suddenly, his eyes wide with a mix of disbelief and triumph. Evelyn rushed to his side, her heart pounding. On his screen, a complex diagram detailed the scammers' online activities, a network of fake websites and social media profiles, recycling elements across multiple scams. "They're not just targeting you," Jordan said gravely. "They've been defrauding seniors across the country, maybe even beyond our borders." The magnitude of their discovery struck Evelyn like a tidal wave. The scammers weren't small-time crooks, they were part of a vast, professional operation. Yet, instead of succumbing to despair, Evelyn felt an invigorating surge of purpose. "Then we must act," she declared. "I won't let these criminals ruin the lives of others like me." With their decision made, Jordan worked feverishly to set up additional safeguards on Evelyn's devices. "I've installed advanced monitoring software on both your computer and your phone," he explained. "This will help us track any further communications without tipping them off." Evelyn looked at the transformed devices, a mixture of modern technology and her own determination, and knew that the fight for justice had truly begun. In the ensuing days, Evelyn and Jordan became deeply entrenched in their covert investigation. Their strategy was to gather as much evidence as possible without alerting the scammers. Every interaction was recorded, every digital breadcrumb carefully documented. Yet as the evidence began to pile up, a heated debate erupted between Evelyn and Jordan regarding their next move. "I won't just sit back and do nothing," Evelyn declared one evening as they pored over the evidence in her kitchen. "They broke into my home, stole my savings, and shattered my sense of security. I want to confront them, even if it means putting myself at risk." Jordan's eyes narrowed in concern. "Grandma, I understand your anger, but we have to be cautious. Charging in blindly could jeopardize everything. These are organized criminals with resources we can't even imagine. We need a plan that lets us gather more evidence without tipping them off." The argument escalated, voices rising and falling like turbulent waves. Evelyn's frustration was palpable as she recounted the personal violation of having her trust exploited. "They didn't just take my money, they took my sense of safety," she said, her voice cracking with emotion. "I want to show them that you can't just prey on someone like me without consequences." Finally, after much deliberation, they reached a compromise. They decided to set up a controlled meeting with the scammers. Evelyn would act as if she had discovered an unexpected windfall, a substantial inheritance from a distant relative, thereby luring the scammers into revealing more about their operation. Jordan would monitor every call, email, and digital exchange, ensuring that any suspicious activity would be immediately flagged. "We'll create a controlled environment where you make contact with them, but everything goes through systems that I can monitor," he explained. "At the first sign of danger, we pull the plug." Evelyn agreed, her determination unwavering. "I'm not going to let these crooks get away with my money or the money of others," she asserted. Together, they meticulously crafted a new narrative, a tale of sudden fortune that would pique the scammers' interest while forcing them to lower their guard. Days later, Evelyn prepared for the meeting with steely resolve. She rehearsed her lines repeatedly, embedding every detail into her memory. She even wove in an unexpected twist, a fabricated story about her late husband's prized stamp collection, to add depth and authenticity to her tale. Jordan watched in amazement as Evelyn's performance grew more convincing with each retelling. "You're brilliant, Grandma," he remarked, impressed by her quick thinking. "They're going to be so caught off guard." The day of the meeting arrived, and Evelyn transformed her living room into a carefully staged set. Hidden cameras were discreetly placed, and microphones captured every word. Her home, once a haven of quiet routine, was now a high-tech surveillance hub. Evelyn, dressed in a floral dress that contrasted sharply with her inner fire, stood ready for what could be the most crucial confrontation of her life. At the appointed hour, the scammers returned. This time, they appeared in a guise more refined and predatory. Leading the charge were two individuals posing as senior financial advisors. "Good afternoon, Miss Carter," said a smooth-voiced man introducing himself as Mr. Parker, flanked by his associate, Miss Hawthorne. "We're here to discuss some additional exclusive investment opportunities that have become available in light of your recent inheritance." Evelyn welcomed them into her living room with a practiced smile. "It's so wonderful to see you again," she said warmly. "I've been thinking about our last conversation and the possibilities that lie ahead." As they sat, the scammer's eyes roved the room, searching for any hint that might betray her true intentions. Evelyn launched into her carefully prepared narrative, recounting the surprising news of an inheritance from a long-lost relative. "I was completely shocked when I received word that my dear aunt had left me a substantial sum in her will," she explained, her voice imbued with a mix of genuine astonishment and feigned vulnerability. "I'm still trying to wrap my head around it all, and that's why I'm so eager to explore your investment opportunities." Mr. Parker leaned forward, his expression schooled into one of sympathetic interest. "That's marvelous news, Miss Carter. Given this unexpected windfall, there are several programs designed specifically to help seniors manage large sums of money safely and profitably," he said, his tone oozing feigned warmth. Evelyn seized the moment, peppering the conversation with carefully chosen questions meant to extract key details about their operation. "Could you tell me more about these investment opportunities?" she asked innocently, her eyes twinkling with a hint of mischief. "I want to ensure that my money is handled with the utmost care and that I'm making informed decisions." As the scammers elaborated on their supposed connections with exclusive investment firms, Evelyn continued to guide the conversation. She noted every technical detail, every mention of high-yield schemes, and every subtle clue that might reveal the structure of their criminal network. Unbeknownst to them, hidden cameras and recording devices were capturing every word, every gesture, a digital and physical paper trail that would soon form the backbone of a major investigation. Throughout the meeting, Evelyn maintained her composure, expertly balancing a persona of naive enthusiasm with the steely resolve of someone who had been wronged. Mr. Parker's occasional nervous glances, such as when he discreetly touched his ear, hinting at an earpiece, did not escape her notice. She smiled and nodded at all the right moments, ensuring the scammers grew more confident and more willing to reveal further details about their operation. When the meeting drew to a close, Mr. Parker assured her, "We'll prepare the necessary paperwork and be in touch soon to finalize everything." Evelyn's heart pounded as she shook his hand, all the while keeping a mental note of every detail. Once they left, she sank into her armchair for several long moments, her mind racing with the implications of what had just transpired. In the adjoining room, Jordan and Detective Maxwell, an experienced law enforcement officer who had been brought in as soon as they had uncovered the depth of the scam, celebrated quietly as they reviewed the evidence. Jordan's fingers danced across his keyboard while Detective Maxwell carefully analyzed the digital trails, transaction logs, and intercepted communications. "We've got them," Jordan murmured, a fierce grin spreading across his face as he confirmed that every account, every hidden server, was now frozen. Evelyn, though exhausted from the emotional roller coaster of the day, felt a surge of triumph. The evidence they had gathered was staggering: a complex web of fake business websites, bogus government portals, and a labyrinth of interconnected social media profiles designed to lend credibility to a criminal operation that had stolen millions from vulnerable seniors across the country. The investigation deepened over the next several days. Evelyn and Jordan pored over reams of digital data, mapping out connections between phone numbers, emails, and bank accounts. Every new piece of evidence added to the picture of a sprawling, sophisticated scam that spanned multiple states and even reached overseas. Jordan explained, "Each line on this diagram represents a link between various accounts. They're laundering money through secure servers that we can't access directly, but every criminal leaves behind a digital footprint eventually." As the scale of the operation became clearer, so did the danger. Detective Maxwell warned, "These aren't small-time crooks. They are part of a criminal network with vast resources. If they suspect we're closing in, they might take drastic measures." Despite the risks, Evelyn's resolve did not waver. "I've been wronged, and I'm not going to let these monsters continue their reign," she declared. "I'm going to fight for every person they've hurt, and we're going to see justice done." In a decisive meeting held in a secure location, Evelyn, Jordan, and Detective Maxwell debated their next move. Jordan advocated for continuing their undercover work remotely to gather even more incriminating evidence. In contrast, Detective Maxwell argued for a cautious approach involving law enforcement to ensure their safety and maintain control of the investigation. After a heated discussion, a plan emerged: Evelyn would continue to interact with the scammers as an informant, while Jordan worked closely with a specialized cybercrime unit to trace every digital lead. Detective Maxwell would coordinate the overall operation, ensuring that every step taken would not compromise their case. The plan was bold and fraught with risk, but Evelyn was undeterred. Over the following week, she honed her performance until it was flawless. Every detail, the exact amount of the fake inheritance, the specifics of her supposed financial history, even the anecdote about her late husband's stamp collection, was rehearsed to perfection. With Jordan monitoring every communication in real time and Detective Maxwell on standby, the trap was set. Then, one fateful day, Evelyn's phone rang again. This time, the scammers were calling on their own initiative. "Good afternoon, Ms. Carter," came the familiar, smooth voice of Mr. Parker, accompanied by Ms. Hawthorne. "We're here to follow up on our previous meeting and discuss further investment opportunities regarding your recent inheritance." Evelyn's pulse quickened as she answered with a warmth that concealed the steely determination beneath. "It's wonderful to hear from you. I've been eagerly anticipating our next conversation," she said, her tone carefully calibrated to inspire trust while masking her true intent. Every word, every gesture, was part of an elaborate performance meant to draw the scammers deeper into their trap. As the conversation progressed, Evelyn skillfully steered the discussion toward topics that would reveal more about their criminal operation. She asked pointed questions about their supposed exclusive investment programs, the nature of their financial partnerships, and even details about the technology they used to secure their transactions. Mr. Parker and Ms. Hawthorne, growing increasingly confident in their deception, began to divulge more than they intended. Hidden behind the facade of benevolent financial advisors, their words painted a vivid picture of an intricate criminal network, complete with shell companies, bogus charities, and offshore bank accounts. Meanwhile, in a separate room filled with monitors, Jordan and Detective Maxwell observed every interaction with growing satisfaction. Jordan's eyes flicked rapidly between screens as he annotated every crucial detail. "Every call, every email, every single interaction is being recorded," he reminded Detective Maxwell, who nodded solemnly. "This evidence is the key to shutting down their entire operation." After the call ended, Evelyn took a moment to collect herself. She sank into her armchair and allowed herself a brief moment of quiet triumph. "I haven't lost my touch," she murmured softly. But the battle was far from over. They now had a week before the scammers were scheduled to return for a final meeting, a meeting that would serve as the culminating event in their operation to bring these criminals to justice. Over the next several days, Evelyn's modest living room transformed into a sophisticated surveillance hub. Hidden cameras, discreet microphones, and carefully positioned sensors recorded every corner of the room, ensuring that nothing went unnoticed. Evelyn worked tirelessly, reviewing footage and rehearsing her lines with the precision of a seasoned actor. Each morning, as sunlight crept in through the windows, she donned her carefully chosen outfit, a designer suit that, though unfamiliar on her modest frame, signified her readiness to confront her oppressors. Jordan, meanwhile, continued to refine the technical aspects of their operation. He integrated advanced tracking software with the existing monitoring systems, ensuring that any further communication from the scammers would be captured in real time. Detective Maxwell coordinated with federal cybercrime units, ensuring that every digital lead was followed without alerting the criminals. Their collaboration was seamless, a blend of traditional investigative methods and cutting-edge technology that left no stone unturned. The tension reached its peak on the day of the final meeting. Evelyn prepared herself in the guest room, her reflection in the mirror revealing a steely determination that belied her gentle exterior. "Remember," Jordan's voice came through the hidden earpiece, "if you sense any danger, use our code word, and we'll pull you out immediately." Evelyn simply nodded, steeling herself for the performance that would determine the fate of countless victims. At the appointed time, the scammers arrived at a luxurious hotel conference room, a stark contrast to Evelyn's modest home but perfect for the masquerade. Hidden cameras and microphones were strategically placed throughout the room, capturing every moment for future evidence. The conference room was filled with an air of false opulence as a parade of well-dressed individuals, Mr. Parker, Miss Hawthorne, and two new figures exuding authority, entered with predatory confidence. As Evelyn stepped into the conference room, she transformed into her role. With a graceful smile and measured steps, she greeted the scammers as if she were an eager investor ready to capitalize on a new windfall. "It's so wonderful to see you all again," she said, her voice warm and direct. "I can't express how grateful I am for the opportunities you're offering me." Mr. Parker's eyes gleamed with barely concealed greed as he leaned in. "Miss Carter, given your recent inheritance, there are investment opportunities that could secure your financial future for decades to come." Evelyn nodded, carefully choosing her words. "I've been reading up on these programs, and I'm very eager to learn more about how I can make the most of this opportunity. Please, do tell me more." The conversation unfolded with a tension that could be sliced with a knife. Evelyn peppered them with questions about exclusive partnerships, high-yield opportunities, and the specific details of the investment process. Every response from the scammers was recorded, every slip of the tongue noted by Jordan and Detective Maxwell in their secure monitoring room. At one point, Miss Hawthorne's gaze narrowed as she remarked, "Miss Carter, you seem remarkably well informed for someone new to high-level investing. Where exactly did you learn about our organization?" Evelyn, drawing on years of experience in community theater, responded with a self-deprecating laugh. "Oh dear, I suppose I got a bit carried away on the internet. My grandson showed me how to do some research, and once I started, I just couldn't stop reading." Her comment elicited chuckles from the scammers, further lowering their guard. As the meeting continued, Evelyn signed a series of preliminary agreements, documents carefully worded to appear legitimate while ensuring that no actual funds were transferred. "We'll be in touch soon to finalize everything," Mr. Parker assured her, his smile never quite reaching his eyes. Once the meeting ended and the scammers departed, Evelyn exhaled deeply, a mix of exhaustion and triumph washing over her. In the adjacent room, Jordan and Detective Maxwell exchanged quiet cheers. They had managed to secure enough evidence to expose a criminal network that had preyed on the vulnerable for far too long. Later that day, as Evelyn and Jordan reviewed the accumulated data, the full scale of the scammers' operation came into focus. Jordan navigated through screens filled with interconnected nodes representing phone numbers, bank accounts, and fake business websites. "Look at this," he said, pointing to a cluster of transactions that clearly indicated money laundering. "They're using secure servers to hide their tracks, but we're getting closer with every digital breadcrumb." Evelyn's eyes widened as she absorbed the implications. "They're laundering money on a scale that I can hardly comprehend," she whispered. "This isn't just about me or a few other victims, it's a nationwide criminal enterprise." Determined to do everything in her power, she said, "I won't rest until every last one of these criminals is brought to justice. I owe it to every person who's ever been taken advantage of." But just as the momentum built, a sudden alert on Jordan's screen sent a jolt through the team. "Damn it!" Jordan muttered, staring at the monitor. "The money trail just disappeared into a secure server we can't access from here." A heavy silence fell as they contemplated their next move. Evelyn, ever resourceful, suggested, "What about Detective Maxwell? Maybe he can help us breach that barrier." Detective Maxwell's face hardened with resolve. "Involving additional law enforcement is risky," he cautioned. "If they catch wind of our investigation, they might shut everything down before we can gather what we need." Evelyn's jaw tightened. "Then we have no choice but to press on," she declared firmly. "We can't allow these criminals to continue their reign." After a heated debate, a new strategy emerged. Evelyn would continue interacting with the scammers as an informant, feeding them carefully crafted information to gain their trust, while Jordan and the cybercrime unit dug deeper into the secure server. Detective Maxwell would coordinate with federal authorities to ensure that any breakthrough led to immediate action. "This is too big for us to handle alone," Jordan admitted, and Evelyn agreed wholeheartedly. "I'm willing to risk it all," she said. "For every senior who's ever been taken advantage of, we have to fight back." In the days that followed, Evelyn maintained her dual life with unwavering determination. By day, she acted as the unsuspecting, grateful senior. By night, she collaborated with Jordan and Detective Maxwell to sift through terabytes of digital data, unearthing every piece of evidence that could expose the criminals. Every phone call, every email was meticulously recorded. Every detail, from the scammers' rehearsed scripts to their subtle gestures, was catalogued for later use. Then, on the day that would mark the final showdown, Evelyn prepared herself for one last performance. The stage was set at a lavish hotel conference room, where hidden cameras and microphones lay in wait. As the clock ticked down to the scammer's arrival, Evelyn took a deep breath and adjusted her designer suit, a stark contrast to her everyday attire, symbolizing the transformation from a victim to a vengeful force for justice. When the door opened, in walked Mr. Parker and Ms. Hawthorne, accompanied by two additional figures exuding authority. The scammers' smiles were slick and predatory, their eyes scanning the room for any sign of weakness. Evelyn greeted them with practiced warmth. "It's a pleasure to see you again," she said, her voice direct and confident. "I've been eagerly awaiting our next discussion about my investment opportunities." Mr. Parker responded, "Ms. Carter, we're delighted to see that you're as enthusiastic as ever. With your recent inheritance, you're in an excellent position to take advantage of our exclusive programs." Evelyn's mind raced as she began her carefully choreographed routine, asking incisive questions about the specifics of their investment strategies, the nature of their supposed exclusive partnerships, and even details that might reveal their true identities. Every question was designed to elicit critical information while maintaining the facade of a trusting, eager client. Throughout the meeting, Evelyn's composure never wavered. Even as Mr. Parker casually mentioned that they sometimes had to make adjustments to certain transactions, Evelyn's eyes sparkled with a hidden intensity. "Adjustments?" she echoed, feigning surprise. "Could you explain what that means in more detail?" The scammers, now increasingly comfortable, began to divulge more about the intricacies of their operation, details that, unbeknownst to them, would soon be used as damning evidence in a major investigation. As the meeting wound down, Evelyn signed a series of preliminary Agreements. Each document was scrutinized by hidden cameras, and every handshake was recorded by Jordan and Detective Maxwell, who were monitoring from a secure location. "Your financial future is in good hands, Ms. Carter," Mr. Parker assured her, his tone oily and insincere. Evelyn's reply was measured and confident. "I appreciate that," she said simply. Once the scammers left, Evelyn allowed herself a brief moment of exhaustion mixed with triumph. In the adjacent surveillance room, Jordan and Detective Maxwell exchanged a look that said everything: they had done it. The evidence was overwhelming, and the net around the criminals was tightening with every passing moment. Later that evening, as Evelyn and Jordan reviewed the final trove of data, the full extent of the criminal network unfolded before them. Detailed spreadsheets, decrypted files, bank statements, and transaction logs revealed millions of dollars funneled through a web of shell companies, fake charities, and offshore accounts. "They've been laundering money on an unimaginable scale," Jordan said, his voice a mix of horror and determination. "But now we have the proof we need to bring them down." Evelyn's eyes welled with emotion as she considered the countless lives that had been ruined by these predators. "I will not let them get away with this," she vowed. "Every stolen dollar, every broken promise, they will all be accounted for." Her words were resolute, carrying the weight of a lifetime of experiences and the determination of someone who had finally found her inner strength. That very night, with the evidence compiled and the plan in motion, Evelyn made the call that would change everything. Dialing Detective Maxwell's secure line, she explained the situation, and he immediately mobilized a task force. Federal agents and cybercrime experts were briefed, and within hours, law enforcement prepared to execute a coordinated operation aimed at dismantling the entire criminal network. In the early hours of the morning, a flurry of activity erupted. Armed police officers, working in perfect coordination with the cybercrime unit, stormed multiple locations simultaneously. In one dramatic scene, heavily armed officers closed in on a hotel corridor where the scammers, now realizing they were trapped, attempted to flee. Shouts of "Police! Freeze!" echoed through the hallways as the criminals were corralled into a tense standoff. From her secure surveillance room, Evelyn watched the chaos unfold on a bank of monitors. Her heart pounded as she witnessed the smug expressions on the scammers' faces give way to shock and dismay. One by one, the criminals were apprehended. Mr. Parker, Miss Hawthorne, and the others were led away in handcuffs, their plans crumbling under the weight of the evidence. In a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, Detective Maxwell appeared on the monitor, his face a mix of triumph and solemn responsibility. "It's over, Miss Carter," he said softly. "We've dismantled a network that has been preying on our most vulnerable citizens. Not only will your stolen funds be returned, but we've also recovered millions in fraudulent transfers. Justice is finally being served." Tears welled up in Evelyn's eyes, not just for the money recovered, but for the dignity restored to countless victims who had suffered in silence. In that moment, she felt a profound sense of closure and pride. "I did it," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "I stood up and fought back, and I won." As the dust settled on the dramatic bust, Evelyn, Jordan, and Detective Maxwell regrouped to discuss the next steps. The evidence they had gathered would be used to prosecute every single individual involved in the scam. But more importantly, their actions sent a powerful message: even the most vulnerable among us have the strength to rise up against injustice. Before the final curtain fell on this chapter of their lives, Evelyn took a moment to reflect on the journey. From the moment she had opened her door to the persuasive smiles of two imposters, to the nerve-wracking investigation that followed, and finally to the triumphant takedown of a criminal empire, she had transformed from a cautious senior into a fierce warrior for justice. Her story was a testament to the power of determination, the importance of community, and the unyielding spirit that refuses to be broken. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey. If Evelyn's story inspired you, or if you have thoughts about how ordinary people can become extraordinary forces against injustice, I'd love to hear from you. Hit that subscribe button, leave a comment with your personal take on this battle against fraud, and share this video with anyone who needs a reminder that courage can change everything. Together, we can make sure that no one is ever left to face these challenges alone.